So we've been hearing a lot about these terms. We've been thinking about it. I think we all have a good idea on what promotion and transmission means. But I'm going to go a little more in depth and just really dissect these ideas and then also use case studies from my research in England. So what do we mean? Well, I started with the broad aim of the field school. And as I understand it, I think of it as to understand what intangible cultural heritage is. That's what we're here for. How it is expressed, and how to safeguard it for the future. So that's a broad aim of the program we're in right now. So really when we're talking about transmission, revitalization, enhancement, and promoting intangible heritage, we're talking ultimately about the tools, the methods, the activities that help to safeguard the expression that we're concentrating on. And it can be argued that transmission is quite similar or fits right into revitalization, these ideas. Enhancement and promotion can also be connected in some cases. But when you are safeguarding an intangible cultural expression, you most likely are engaged with transmitting it, revitalizing it, so keeping it invigorated with life, vitality. You are engaged most likely in the enhancement and promotion of intangible expression. So they go hand in hand. So a definition could be for these terms actions or groupings of actions that facilitate as well as support the continued evolution of cultural expressions and beliefs. So let's look at transmission. We've been all talking about it, and I believe in a lot of our groups, this idea of educating younger members of the next generation, teaching them of the skills of whatever intangible expressions we're looking at. So really that falls under this idea of transmission. So it is to transmit. It can be defined as to pass on knowledge, information. And where does transmission occur? Group settings, as we're doing right here, right now, one-on-one and informal conversations. We're transmitting information to each other. We're communicating. And through various media, as we all know, text, right? We can read information, images, moving images, the making of video documentaries. Social media, we're communicating, we're transmitting information. Obviously, that's on the internet. And again, the educational, the teaching aspects of transmission. This can happen in classroom settings, as we all know from our lives. Also informal settings, so the young children that come to Dong Cao, that's a more informal setting where they're learning this tradition. Workshops, this is also a workshop, this can be considered that as well. Demonstrations of intangible cultural expressions, performances, and even rehearsals, as I'll get to in a second. So what is the key to effectively safeguarding intangible cultural heritage? Right? I like this idea of effectiveness. What we want to do is safeguard these expressions and think about how they can be. But what we also want to do is to do it effectively. We want to think about the best methods, the best ways forward. So one key to effectively safeguarding intangibles is to understand what exactly is intangible cultural heritage. And I touched upon this last week about the uniqueness and diversity of intangible expressions. And I even brought up the significance and values, why they're important to the communities, groups, and individuals we're working with. And I'll be talking a little bit more about that today. But again, intangible heritage is unique and highly specific. So in a way, our safeguarding approaches need to be just as specific, just as customized. And the uniqueness emerges or comes from the fact that people, again, intangible heritage is embodied by people. And also the connections expressions have to the places where they're practiced, the places where people migrate to and continue the practice. And the reasons, again, the importance. Why are people showing up to do a folk dance every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock at the pub in Newcastle? Why is it important? So really, when you think about the uniqueness and this idea of embodying intangible cultural heritage, you can step back for a moment and really question what should be safeguarded. Is it really only about the techniques and the knowledge? Or should it be more about the meanings, the values that are expressed collectively by these communities? So in particular, with the weaving tradition at Wat Dong Cao, what comes to my mind, it's not just the techniques and the pattern making, it's also that they get together and talk and express senses of community and senses of belonging. So again, why is it important? Perhaps this should also be in our safeguarding focus. And once again, who knows this best? We all know this, the communities, groups, and individuals, and that's why we are trying our best to engage them completely in this process. So I'm going to look at transmitting, promoting, revitalizing, enhancing intangible cultural heritage through some case studies from Northeast England, my own PhD research. And the area in the Northeast that I looked at consists now of these 3 counties. So Northumberland in the north, so Scotland is right above that Northumberland county, Durham County in the south, and Tyne and Wear County in the middle, within which the city of Newcastle is located, where I studied with Peter. So I identified, I didn't have 2 weeks to do this, I had a couple of years, and I went out, mainly in the city of Newcastle, but also in the countryside, and I observed, and I had informal conversations at pubs mainly, but also festivals and other events throughout the region to really identify the intangible cultural expressions I wanted to study. So one of them that I did identify is a Northumbrian folk music. And this is a very unique musical tradition that is distinctive of the Northeast region. This idea of Northumbria is a mythical term for Northeast England. Some folk musicians out in the countryside west of Newcastle, and a cute little kid. I also identified this intangible expression called the Northumbrian small pipe. This is the playing of the bagpipe. This is also the making of the bagpipe. It's handmade. And also the composing for music that is played on this bagpipe. It's contemporary as well. There are composers still. This picture shows a young girl competing on the bagpipe, and that man at the table is a judge. So there are these events that are occurring in these communities in order to keep these expressions alive. And also the rapper dance, I briefly mentioned that on Tuesday last week. Again, this is a sword dance. And I'm going to show a video now to wake us all up. But what's key to know is that it consists of 5 people, and they must always be attached to each other through their swords. So it involves high coordination, technique, and also, trusting each other, because if one of those swords bend, they're called the rapper, and this is one of the points of my talk, is it's not just about performances or festivals. It's about the moments we may not see as a public, as members of the public. It's about the rehearsals, the chats in between, the birthday parties on the weekends, the funerals as well, that make up this community, and that is also expressed through this dance. In Newcastle at a pub, the upstairs. Each of these configurations, these pretzel-like things they're doing with the swords, have names. This is a tradition that grew out of the coal mining villages of the Northeast. It's about 3 centuries old. It was predominantly performed by coal miners. But these days, it's been passed on to a more general community where they have other occupations during the day, mainly because the coal mines have closed in the northeast of England. So there are 2 points in the dance where they show you the locked swords. This is called a rose. And I should also note that there's always folk musicians around. I've never witnessed a dance in rehearsal or on the street or in a festival without the folk musicians, without music playing. They are just as big a part of the rapper dancing community as they are as the folk musician community. These 3 intangible expressions are very interconnected. And in person, it's much faster and much louder. Did they do a flip yet? Okay, just waiting for that. Come on, guys. And there's a lot of shouting during it, joking. You don't have to be athletic. Okay. All right, we'll leave it at that. So, in order for my research looked at how museums can help safeguard intangible heritage within the context of the northeast of England. But first, I had to identify these three intangible expressions, and also understand why they're important. Because therefore, I could understand better how they can be safeguarded, what really gives them their life. So what I found in general with these three groups that are, again, very interconnected, that there's strong senses of belonging. So this is a reason of the significance of the folk music, the bagpiping, and the rapper dance. And this is belonging to each other as a community, as a group, and with the dance in particular as a team. Also the belonging to those dancers and musicians who had come before, so that's continuation of a tradition, and belonging to this part of the planet where these traditions have evolved and grew from. And similarly, there are senses of pride. They're proud of the northeast of England. In many of the interviews I would hear, I'm not English, I'm Northeast English. That's first. Pride of each other, pride that they're bringing it to the public. Senses of self, this link to identity. So for many of those I interviewed, they express this idea that yes, the dance, yes, the music, yes, the bagpipe, it helps me to define myself. I define myself through them. However, I must also note, in the heritage field, we talk a lot about this automatic link between heritage and identity. And yet I believe we should be researching that more. What exactly are these links? And with the interviewees within my research, the dancers and musicians, there were those who said, you know what, no, this doesn't at all have a link to my identity. What I would say is that it's a large part of my lifestyle, what I do, what's fun, my hobby. So it's interesting when you need to talk to people to find out exactly what these links are, and perhaps there aren't links in their viewpoint. Also senses of place. Peter talked a bit about this. Again, this expressing of the northeast of England, the blades of grass, the landscapes, the city streets, the rivers, through the music, through the dance. And then in a more collective sense, as a group or a community or a rapper dancing team, these values that have been conveyed. And I mainly, this data, so to speak, emerged through participant observation. So just observing them at rehearsals and drinking in between and walking from one venue to another. There's a lot of teamwork that emerges and is conveyed through these traditions. And respect for each other, respect for outsiders sitting around and watching them, and generosity. So this idea that novices and new musicians and new dancers are welcome. There's no judgment on skill. They would give each other music, share with each other events. Would you like to play at this event I'm going to in the countryside? So really a very warm-hearted value that is conveyed by these three expressions. And so why understand why intangible cultural heritage is important? Because it creates a better picture of how best to safeguard it. You're getting to the core, the intangibility of these expressions, the vitality.